Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Jung E, a Korean science fiction movie from 2023 that was directed by Yeon Sang-ho, the man who gave us Train to Busan, and then Psychokinesis, and Peninsula, and Hellbound. But he did recover recently with Parasite the Grey, which was good. Now where does Jung E sit within this man's inconsistent filmography? Well, let's find out. The following plot synopsis was paraphrased from Wikipedia. Jung E portrays a desolated Earth in the 22nd century that is no longer habitable due to climate change, and humans are forced to live in man-made shelters that are built in space within Earth's orbit. As the humans settle in around 80 of those shelters, 3 of the shelters declare themselves the Adrian Republic, and they attack Earth and other shelters and cause a civil war. Captain Yun Jung-yi is a legendary mercenary of the Allied forces who led her team to countless successful missions against the Adrian Republic. Unfortunately, she fails her final mission and ends up in a coma. Kronoid, an institute in charge of developing AI technologies, convinces her family to agree to clone her brain. I'm almost done with the plot synopsis, there's a little more. 35 years later, Kronoid clones Jung Yi's brain to develop an AI mercenary, codenamed Jung E, for the purpose of extracting combat memory data that could be used to develop an exceptional combat AI. This whole plot synopsis and story and premise, it sounds like something Mamoto Oshii would have developed. You know, it almost has like a Ghost in the Shell type of aspect to it and stuff like that, although maybe not quite that good. But the opening scene of Jung E is an entertaining shootout involving a woman who's fighting some robots. And there's this robot boss, so to speak, that I would compare to an evil Tachikoma, if there was one, in Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. It's a good scene, and the robo-boss is tough to take down. Now, both the practical and CGI effects are convincing enough, as are the set designs. However, there's not that much action after the opening scene until we get to, like, the finale. You know what I mean? The action set piece at the end is pretty good, but I like the opener more, because the ending is basically metal robots punching each other in the face, with less emphasis on firearms and weaponry. So that's kind of like a summary of the action components in this. They're, generally speaking, pretty good, but nothing great. But in all honesty, this is more of a drama than an action movie. That's not necessarily a bad thing in this case. Now, most of the story concerns the ethical dilemmas of experimenting on cloned dead people who live on in like torturous military experiments. You know, so imagine if you, right before you die, you're cloned, and your clone is put through like unbelievable amounts of like torture, physical and mental torture, for the sake of a corporation, basically, and research. And that's what happens to our legendary soldier in this. The film also touches upon the process of signing over a human's brain data to the government and corporations. So, you know, in this film, they have multiple options. Like, let's say you're dying of cancer. You have multiple options, you know, as to, you know, how you want to, I guess, be rebirthed in your new body. But there are consequences based on how much money you're willing to spend. And, you know, you will continue to live using your new body, but if you lack money and resources, your civil rights may be negatively impacted. I thought that was interesting. Another aspect is the changing reputation of this legendary soldier, the main character, because she failed her main mission that would have ended the war. And because she failed, the enemy was allowed to regroup, and the war continued on for another 4 decades. They also touch on the fact that these, like, artificial intelligence simulations, although improving combat readiness, have failed to push this legendary warrior past her personal flaws of failing the final mission. They basically force her to relive this final mission over and over and over again, hoping that she'll adapt and become victorious in it. And This angers the superior officers that are in charge, and it adds pressure on the scientists who are in charge of the project. And then there are some political aspects that come up later that throw a monkey wrench in the research. So Jung E dabbles in like a number of topics that are actually pretty interesting, and that does keep the film, engaging, I think. There's nothing really that deep or new here in terms of what it has to say, but it does do a pretty good job of kind of lightly exploring each of these themes, in my opinion. Now, there's one character who did annoy me at first, and that's the male director of this Kronoid organization, he acts like a bit of a clown early on. A bit too goofy and unprofessional for this level of responsibility for his character. However, he does become more serious later on, and I think the actor did a good job of making that transition. I just felt they should have had more balance at his portrayal earlier in the film. And all the performances in this are pretty good. Runtime is only 1 hour and 33 minutes, and that's not quite common for Korean films. I tend to say that. But given Yeon Sang-ho's recent scriptwriting and directing efforts, Jung E was better than expected, actually. It's nowhere near being as great as Train to Busan, but it's certainly better than something like Psychokinesis. So I do moderately recommend this. And it's currently streaming on Netflix. As always, folks, I'll see you next time.